My name is Carson, and welcome to Thrifty Garage, a channel where we do everyday repairs, how-tos, and reviews. In today's video, I'll be following up on my snowplow pricing, and we're going to be doing Salter pricing. Just finished up a snow removal event, and thought it'd be cool to talk about the prices that I paid for my Salter, my tailgate Salter, and why I chose this specifically over some other options that are on the market, why I chose the brand, and why I chose a tailgate over an embed. So I'd like to apologize in advance. I will be referencing my phone on this. Whenever I do big purchases like this, I always put it in a spreadsheet. So to buy my plow and my Salter, I called many different local vendors for a variety of different products. I looked at a bunch of different brands and ultimately chose the snowex brand because it's something that I'm comfortable with, and also because the pricing was right. So before we get into the pricing, let's talk about different offerings. So pretty standard is a tailgate spreader, which goes into your hitch on your vehicle, and that would work for an SUV, a truck, or even a side-by-side or a ATV. You just slide it into the receiver hitch, it bolts up, and then you put bags of ice melt inside and spins it out. Pretty simple. Kind of the next big step up from that would be like a V-box spreader, which goes in the bed of a truck. Generally you need a 3/4 or 1 ton truck for that, or larger. Obviously you see all your DOT trucks with something similar. Theirs are usually big stainless steel units, and a lot of the options on the commercial pickup truck market is more of a poly box. I really weighed the pros and cons of doing a tailgate versus an in-bed spreader, and the conclusion I came to was to do a tailgate spreader. And the reason for the tailgate spreader is because I can put a pallet of ice melt in the bed of my truck, and I'm not contaminating all the ice melt to the elements. Once water gets into your salt or ice melt, it causes problems. So if I can keep that dry and clean for as long as possible, the better. Also, I don't have a really good way to load bulk. I do have a skid steer, but I don't have a place to just dump a semi-load of ice melt or salt and scoop it up into the truck. So loading, unloading would be very difficult. You can do a V-box spreader from bags of ice melt. Load the bags of ice melt on top of the grate and empty them in there. But again, after the storm, if you load it up too much, you have to be able to have a way to empty that. So just weight capacity wise, logistics, a number of reasons I chose not to do that. So depending on your situation, it may be better to go with bulk. If you've got a way to keep bulk materials out of the elements under a tarp or canvas or canopy, and you've got equipment on site or in a couple different locations that you can load with, that works really well. So depending on the size of your operation and just what equipment you have, would really depend on that. So for me, it worked really well to do a tailgate spreader. I did opt to go with the largest tailgate spreader possible. Some cons that I've come across with that is it's a pretty heavy unit. I was hopeful that I could just pull it out by hand and put it back in by hand. It's too heavy for that. I've got to use a floor jack, and I've got a dolly, and I'll roll it around, and I've got that in my plow setup video, kind of showing you how I work that. I figured out a system, but it'd be a lot easier with 2 people. So that is one con of going with the larger tailgate spreader. If you want to go something lighter, that might help you in that regard. But I wanted to have a tailgate spreader that had as much capacity. I could put 12 plus bags in it, 50-pound bags, no problem. I could probably squeeze in another 2-3 bags without much issue. So let's get into the pricing now. Again, I priced out several different brands. So first up, we've got a snowex Salter. They've got their SP 575, which is a 5.75 cubic foot. And the price on that is $1,600. snowex also has an SP 1075, which is what I have, and that's a 10.75 cubic foot for $2,300. Next up, from the same supplier, we've got a Fisher 8 cubic foot for $1,900, and that's their on or off version. So their auger speed is not adjustable on that lower tier 8 cubic foot option for $1,900. You can step it up to a variable option, same unit, Fisher 1000, 8 cubic foot. So the Fisher unit is cheaper than the snowex. Okay, next step up for the snowex would be an in-bed Salter. So they've got the new helixx. They've got a helixx auger, and that has a 1.5 cubic yard for $58.50, and that has a capacity of 3,250 pounds. The next step up from that, if you've got a 1-ton truck, is the 2.25 cubic yard option, which is 60.75 cubic feet. So we're talking 10 cubic feet versus 40 cubic feet versus 60 cubic feet. So we're gonna bump it up to $68.50, so an extra $1,000 for 50% more in the 2.25 cubic foot. Install on the Salter is $125. My numbers comparing the snowex tailgate versus the snowex embed, we're looking at an install cost of $2,425 for the tailgate and just shy of $6,000 for the embed. So that's a difference of $3,550. So I had to decide whether that $3,550 was worth it to me. And in my situation, it wasn't worth it. It actually would have caused more headache and issues that would have helped. I just don't need the capacity right now, and it just wouldn't have given me the versatility that I currently have. Okay, next up we've got the saltdogg Salter, and they've got the TGS07, which is an 11 cubic foot, so very in line with what I've got, the 1075, and the price on that is $2,361 with an install price of $375 for a total install cost of $2,736. So we're about $300 more than the snowex for that saltdogg Salter. Okay, next up we've got the Western. Again, like I said in my plow video, Western and snowex are basically the same brands, rebranded, and different access regionally. So depending on your local vendor network, you may end up going with a Western instead of a snowex, but they're pretty similar in controllers and units. So they've got the ProFlow 525. So again, the same thing as the snowex, and I did not get a price on that one, but the install would be $535 from this particular vendor. The ProFlow 900 is a 9 cubic foot option for $39.95 with an install of $630. That Western Salter is quite a bit more for the 9 cubic foot there. So talk about my snowplow video. Stork's Plow is also a national vendor, and here's a good example of the price savings you might find with them, but I think you're gonna have to do the install work yourself. One of my vendors quoted me for the Western 1000 at $2,250 installed, and Stork's Plows on their website showed a price of $1,724. So that's about a $500 savings, which is pretty good. Hopefully that makes sense. My decision making came down to what I was familiar with, as well as local vendor network. My local vendor had snowex, and they had good prices on it in contrast to the other market. I could have mixed matched plows and salters, but I wanted to keep the same. And at the end of the day, it's really dependent on your region and what your local offerings are. Honestly, if this particular vendor hadn't worked with me, I most likely would have gone with a different plow, simply because this was the main one that offered snowex. The other vendors wouldn't have offered snowex, and if this snowex dealer didn't take care of me and wasn't responsive like they were, then I would have had to go somewhere else that was responsive. Ultimately, when a plow breaks down in the middle of a storm, I've got to have somebody that I can call and rely on. I had to go an hour to get this installed. This is not a region where we've got a ton of dealers local. Basically all the quotes I got were from an hour to 2 hour radius away from me, and they were both the closest and the most responsive and the best price, a combination of all three. So there you have it. There's why I chose my Tailgate Salt Spreader. If you're interested, check out the plow video and why I chose that plow, as well as I've got a video on how to install the plow and salter if you're interested in the snowex system. I really love the automatic system on the snowex plow. Like I mentioned in this one, the salt spreader, the tailgate spreader is a little bit difficult, still kind of working out the kinks on that, but the plow is awesome for connection. I've used older V-plow ones, and you almost definitely have to get a floor jack out to hook it on, and you're just constantly messing with pins and alignment. So check out those videos if you're interested, and thanks for watching Thrifty Garage. We'll see you on the next one. Here's what 12 bags looks like. Probably fit a little bit more in there, but 12 looks pretty good for me. I just took my extra bags in the side here, keep them from blowing out.